All right. This is Miss Hines. So what I'm going to start doing every week is we're going to go over the lesson that we're going to be talking about. This week it was Love Your Lungs. So it kind of goes into the respiratory system. Your respiratory system is everything included in the breathing process. So very important. So without your respiratory system, we wouldn't even be able to live. Every cell in our body needs oxygen, and in order to use energy for nutrients. So it's vital system. Um, so one of the questions on the first question on the Love Your Lungs on the packet was it was vocabulary, and then it kind of went into what was the process of breathing. So on the first page it kind of starts going through that process. So it all begins with your nose and mouth, because that's how the air is taken in. So your nose and mouth kind of warm it so it's not like a shock to your system, and it goes down your trachea. So one of the things it talks about is cilia. So cilia, they're kind of like the little nose hairs in your nose, which is kind of gross, but it cleans out dust particles so all that gunk isn't getting down into your lungs. And later we talk about smoking. And you also have cilia in your lungs, and it kind of filters out stuff too. So when you smoke, your cilia doesn't work as effectively. And a good example of cilia is like when you wake up in the morning and you have like that nasty, snotty feeling in your throat and in your mouth. That's your cilia at work. It's cleaning that gunk out of your lungs and getting it out. And when you smoke, it doesn't work as effectively. So just FYI, and we get more into smoking later. So after it goes in your mouth and nose, it goes down your trachea. So down this way. Your trachea branches off into bronchi, and then bronchi to bronchioles to alveoli, and kind of that's really the outlook of the main process. On this page, it kind of goes over each thing more detailed, like it has the alveoli right here and different things. It shows you this nice diagram. You need to ignore my little notes, but you can see the different things. So it has you going down the trachea to the bronchi, bronchioles, and then the alveoli are these little popcorn looking things. So one of the things I put in my notes that I forgot to say is so we take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide, and plants are the exact opposite. They take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen. So that's why plants are so important. And we're kind of important to them too. So it's kind of like a reversed kind of thing. Another thing we talk about is your diaphragm. It's an important organ in the respiratory system. It's a large flat muscle underneath your lungs, and so like right around this area. And as you breathe in and out, you can feel your diaphragm. So that's what that is. And that's really all it kind of goes into. And you can see the diaphragm in this little diagram too. So that kind of shows you exactly what it looks like. And then it even has like the cilia over here, which are the little hair-like things that help clean. Yeah, and then it kind of talks about your voice box, which I'm not going to get a whole lot into because we're more focused on the respiratory system. The next page, it kind of has some respiratory illnesses. So these are different things that kind of affect your respiratory system. It has allergies and asthma, and a lot of us have that, so we know what that is. And right now it's allergy season, so you kind of get like stuffed up, you're coughing, your chest might feel tight. You have that right now. Asthma, so a lot of people, you might have induced asthma or just regular asthma, and it kind of affects your breathing too. You might have an inhaler or something to kind of control that common thing to have asthma. Another one is bronchitis, so that's inflammation of the bronchi. So we go back to those tubes that I showed you. So that's kind of when they get some mucousy junk in there and they get infected. Pneumonia. So a pneumonia is an infection of the lungs and the alveoli. So we know the lungs, the major organ of the respiratory system, and then the alveoli were those little popcorn things that I showed you earlier. It makes a lot of extra mucus and pus is a collection of white blood cells that gather to fight the infection, but they kind of get trapped in the lungs. So a lot of the times, if someone has pneumonia, they are in the hospital. And I know when I was younger, I was in first grade, I was hospitalized for pneumonia. So it's a more serious respiratory issue. And then the last one they have on here is tuberculosis. It's an infection that was almost eliminated in this country, but it's kind of back. It's passed from person to person because of bacteria. So that's one too. And one of the ones they didn't list that I think is important for you to recognize is emphysema. Emphysema is a long-term smoking respiratory illness. So once you've smoked for a long time, say your whole life or many, many years, you develop emphysema. That's when people are like long-term on oxygen, things like that. So it's not something a regular person would get. It's smoking related. And then I put lung cancer on there too. And that obviously, for the most part, is smoking related. There are some people that have lung cancer, but not because of smoking, but maybe it passed from another cancer that they have in their body. But it's the number one cancer associated with smoking. So what it also has at the bottom is give your lungs a lift. And basically, like when I talk about physical activity, it's really important for your health. It's not just a day that we get to go outside and have fun, and it is fun too, but you need exercise to be healthy. Physical health is very important, and also important for your lungs. So that's kind of what that goes into. It works on your lung capacity, aerobic exercise. It said you should at least be getting 30 minutes a day. So hopefully on these nice days, you guys are getting outside and doing something or exercising inside because it is important. So the next page kind of does go into smoking. So it talks about your circulatory system, which is your heart, blood vessels, things like that. So it kind of goes into carbon monoxide. It's a gas produced by smoking. It's poisonous, odorless gas, and most of the time your smoke alarms that you have in your house, it kind of it detects that because carbon monoxide, you can't see it, you can't smell it, it's deadly, but that's what it detects for. And obviously when you're around a smoker, you're not getting a super high level of carbon monoxide, but still not good for you. So it kind of goes into how it harms the blood vessels, talking about no smoking. And one of the things for you guys is secondhand smoke. So if you're around someone that's smoking, even if you're walking by someone smoking by Walmart, you're taking in that secondhand smoke and you're still taking in some chemicals that aren't good for you. People that are around secondhand smoke are more likely to get respiratory illnesses, even if they're not the ones smoking. So it kind of goes into that. Smoke in the respiratory system. So it talks about tar, which when I talk about tar, we usually just say it's a black sticky substance. It's just, we watched this video, and if you do get time to just go and watch this video, it's like a pop bottle experiment, and some of you have maybe seen it on social media, and normally we would watch it in class. It kind of has this pop bottle, and then it has the cotton balls in the middle, and it shows it smoking the cigarettes, and it shows you what it looks like after 30 packs of cigarettes or whatever, and it just goes through a whole lot. And then when you see it, like, it's just so black and disgusting. And if I remember, I'll put the link for that video because it's neat to see just because you don't think about it like that, and then you actually really get to see the tar. And there it actually goes into emphysema, and they just say it's a very serious smoking disease. The alveoli cannot contract as they would, and it's difficult for them to get an oxygen. So like I said, a long-term smoking illness. So here it says, among people who don't smoke, lung cancer is a rare disease. Lung cancer is a smoker's disease in which a tumor forms in the lungs. A tumor is made of abnormal cells that grow out and choke healthy cells. Many cases of lung cancer end in death. So smoking is obviously something that a person chooses. So if you can prevent this stuff by never doing it, that's the best thing for you to do. Just never start, and that's the easiest way for you to quit. So less smoke, but no less danger. So it kind of goes into smokeless tobacco, and smokeless tobacco is snuff. So obviously it's not damaging your lungs because you're not inhaling it, but it's sitting there, and you can see this nasty picture. It's sitting there in your mouth, and it's getting your teeth and lips, gums. A lot of oral cancers come from that, black teeth. So when we usually talk about this, we talk about long-term health effects and short-term health effects. And obviously, when you think of long-term, it's a longer period of time. Short-term, shorter period of time. So short-term effects of smoking would be like bad breath, nasty teeth, addiction, things that happen in a short amount of time. Long-term, long amount of time. So it's more like lung cancer, emphysema. So kind of try to remember those because there is a difference, and it's important to know that. So on the rest of this, it kind of, don't fall for it. We're not going to answer those questions. Tobacco free for a healthy me. So this is important too. So nicotine is what's in tobacco that makes it addictive. It makes people want to keep doing it. It kind of tells your brain that you need it. You want to feel that feeling. And a lot of people, their excuse for smoking is they're stressed. And then they get that temporary relief when they do smoke. But again, it's temporary. So it might make you feel okay for 30 seconds after doing it or however long your nicotine buzz lasts. But ultimately, your problems are still there. So you have to keep that in mind. And then it kind of goes into addictive. So that's like you crave it, you want it, you think you have to have it. And it says here, like I said earlier, the only way to avoid addiction is to never start smoking or chewing tobacco. So kind of already said that. So it says more and more people are deciding never to smoke these days. But a problem that is occurring now is the electronic cigarettes. So those are becoming more popular, especially with younger people. And it kind of started out where people were using them to quit smoking. And they'd start with like a higher dosage of nicotine, and then they kind of go down to where they have none, and then they're quitting. But now people are smoking those instead, and they have a ton of nicotine in them. Some of them are saying they're equal to, one is equal to a whole pack of cigarettes, just smoking one little puff. Or however, it just depends your level of nicotine. So it's crazy to think about like that. So think how addictive those are too. So the next page kind of goes over the vocabulary. And the first thing I asked you was to write out the vocabulary. So anytime you're looking for the vocabulary, it's obviously in the reading. Like you can see here, like they're bolded. Those vocabulary words are usually always bold or maybe underlined. But here it has every single one of them listed under word-wise. So you can see each word and the definition. So, like, I asked you to look up one and write it in a sentence. So, let's say trachea. So you can write trachea, the windpipe. You could say the trachea is located in the neck area as a sentence. So you're just trying to use it in a sentence too. So there's you an example. So ask the I can't talk. Ask the expert. It kind of asks the question and talks about e-cigarettes here. We're not going to go over it because you've read it. So really that's all from the reading. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to message me on Schoology. Get a hold of me. Even if you think it's a silly question, I don't care to answer it. So that's our first lesson. So next time, I believe our lesson is on first aid. So we'll kind of go over that next week. So see you guys later.